They say that you should not keep people between lunch, but it's even worse crime to keep people away from cocktails, because I see the bottles behind me clinking nicely. So thankfully for you, the theme for this evening is profitability, something that will be appetizing for you before you have drinks. So to discuss something like profitability, I think the first thing that we must accept is profitability will not come in isolation. Transporter A cannot make profit without his end customer making profit. The OEM cannot make profit without the fleet operator making profit. The component maker can only make profits if both OEM and the fleet operator are happy. So what we're looking at is a chain, and it was something very nicely covered in the workshop that we just had. We had lots of people brainstorming, talking. I see some brainstorming happening at the last row still. So I think we are on to a good process. But in this discussion, we will have 4 very good speakers. My first speaker is Mr. Ramesh Rajagopalan, Executive Vice President and Head Customer Service, Network Strategy and Retail Excellence, VECV. Mr. Rajagopalan? I must say thank you. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? So I can say that I must thank him and also say sorry to him, because thanks to this program, he's had to spend almost 1 day on the road. He has to go to Chhattisgarh from here. So thank you. The next speaker who's joining us online, because despite having constraints of travel, he still wanted to be with us. Mr. Naveen Chopra. Mr. Naveen Chopra is Head PD and CDMM at Mahindra Trucks and Buses. Yeah, can we have a big hand for him? So both these gentlemen have really shown their commitment. Next, we have Mr. Nadurmath. He is Head ERM of RE Sustainability. You must recognize him as a very big fleet operator focused on waste management, who's very much based out of Hyderabad. Last but not the least is Sriram.
Hello.
Yes? Yes? Somebody wanted to speak? Okay. So, last but not the least is Sriram Muralidharan, who you've already heard. Telma retarders. So essentially, yeah, please. So essentially, I'll be like a headmaster sitting on one side, questioning all my school pupils here on profitability. Okay. So my format is very simple. I don't want to complicate this too much. There's already been a lot of discussion. Unless the old habits die hard. Yeah. So Ramesh, over to you. When you think of profitability, and when you think, I think the thing that came out in our discussion was that profitability cannot happen in silos, and that is something that I picked up. So today, as an OEM, when you do your demand forecasting, to what extent are you aware of the end customer? Bear in mind that your end customer goes across multiple segments and multiple markets.
Thank you, Sridhar, and good evening, all of you. And thanks for having me here. I think very interesting, very lively audience out there. I think a lot of energy in the previous discussion. I think a lot of points also came up, which is going to be discussed again. Back to the topic which you raised, Sridhar, I think, yes, I agree with you. I think the entire value chain, the stakeholders in the value chain have been operating in absolute silos. I think notwithstanding the basic understanding that there is a truck, there is a goods to be moved, there is a people to be moved, barring that, I think there are understanding here and there, but I think now with the last 1 decade, I would say the emergence of logistics and the transportation much more getting organized, a lot of nuances are coming up. E-commerce, for example, one example, has got such a rapid expansion, the way the end user is expecting us to be there in the value chain. When I say us, I'm talking about the entire ecosystem. It's very different than what it used to be. Today we're talking of, even take a two-wheeler, there's a Blinkit app, 7 minutes they deliver flat. In the early days we used to have somebody thinks like this. So this is a new thing, and I think all the stakeholders from the OEMs, we have to reconfigure ourselves. And there has been already attempt by most of the OEMs to understand much deeper the consumer psychology. Then comes the fleet operator psychology, and then the entire value system. And I think a lot of efforts are going in. The products, for example, are getting much more reimagined and configured towards the application itself. There are new segments where specific vehicles are getting made. The application engineering was one part of it, always there, like tippers and large segment. But today there are specific applications in terms of size of the containers, the kind of refrigerator containers varieties we have, in terms of length of the cargo body, suiting every single application. We have from 14 feet to 32 feet. Every 2 feet we say, earlier the industry was divided by tonnages. Today we are talking of tonnage plus the volume goods also. We have a high volume, low density and things like this. So I think it's about coming back to the topic itself. How do you maximize the productivity in terms of profitability and efficiency is that understanding every single nuances across the value chain. I think each one of us have a role to play. Just as the transporters would kind of do it, same way I think OEMs also have a onus on them.
No, points really well made, and I think everyone would agree with that. But let me ask you a simple question. I mean, if you say compare yourself with, say, what happened 5 years ago, vis-a-vis what's happening now, with so much data being thrown up, to what extent has your demand forecasting improved? I mean, in terms of inventory reduction, has it improved by, say, 5-10%, you think, in that period?
I would say yes, largely because of data availability is one. And second is we are able to establish as an industry very close linkages to what is driving our business. For example, every month they release the data of the GDP and other data. There is a very strong correlation between the GDP growth and the auto industry growth. And there is a cyclicity. The biggest thing is it's not fully done, that we don't have the magic formula to exactly predict what will be the industry next year, because there are always what is coming. What is not coming in the picture is a regulation change. So for example, we argued some time back only in the group, then the overloading part of it. There was a lot of restriction overloading, it came down significantly, and then there is a rule change, the GVW itself get 25% more. That means we made it legitimate 20% you can carry, whereas the trucks itself was reconfigured to optimize the costs were brought down, these leaf spring suspension, all those optimized to carry only that road. And suddenly overnight we found also 25%, the industry went down, suddenly there was a happiness for the transporters for little time, the 25% they can carry more. It was short-lived because the end consumer is also asking for the same benefit. So this is going on circles. I think barring this kind of unpredictability, which is driven largely by regulations, more or less we are able to say this is the thing, and then every competition, every manufacturer has its own share of business. Regulation BS4 to BS6 happened. So there's a lot of challenges keeps coming that way. That keeps us on our toes, but I think the formula is not very clear otherwise. But the best effort, data is definitely helping us in predicting a little bit more than what it used to be earlier.
So data is a good takeoff point. I mean, data obviously helps. And for a volume of your size with a growing profile of customers, I mean, TCI mentioned that most of the fleet is on VECV. So obviously data is going to be important. That brings me to Mr. Chopra. Mr. Chopra, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So Mr. Chopra, we heard somebody who's a sales, a front-facing person. As a technology person, when you have to implement all these dynamics of demand being not uncertain, of different applications, government regulations not being clear, to what extent can your technology, I know that you are one of the pioneers of the IMAX technology, so to what extent can data from your technology come in to help the whole ecosystem, not just manufacturers, but everybody?
Yeah, you rightly said that the data, there are two things in the entire ecosystem. One is the product, which everybody is responsible for, right from OEM to the user, everybody has to take care. And second is, in these days, if you know, AI ML is one of the buzzword in the industry. So how do we use that AI ML? So data is the gold mine now. It's not about the vehicle, which makes a person or a driver or a fleet owner profitable, but it's all about the usage of the data, how we can optimize by utilizing these data basics so that he can operate his fleet in a way that he minimizes the tour thing. Like we have on the other front, if you see in our normal day-to-day things, Ola, Ubers, these kind of things. Earlier taxis were of a different value proposition. Today, if you see, it's in the affordable range. How? Because we are utilizing the data information and then optimizing the fleet to reduce the time for reaching a particular point or reaching a customer. So all these things are helping everybody to put on this thing. So now for a transportation purpose, this telemetrics is playing a major role. So what has been devised that the entire driver profile the entire vehicle profile, route profile is being mapped. Post mapping that, the entire data gets analyzed on a continuous runtime basis. Both we have at the OEM center, we have a full data room which is operating 24 hours a day, and also it is available along with the our fleet operator in the terms of the apps on the mobile. So the interaction between both can lead to so much of information that how the driver is driving the vehicle. It's all about even to the extent that is there any kind of fuel theft. Those information are also available. So all this data analytics is now helping transfer of information, share of information. Not only this, you see even the predictive, any kind of failure or any kind of challenge which the driver may face in his vehicle, even that predictive analysis is now getting into loop. And we are further working on that to predict much in advance if there is any kind of problem which he may face during his tour. And even all we know from the Google and WhatsApp, those data are already available in our system. So all these things are helping us to reduce the overall time to the destination, the optimization of driver habits, the comfort, the relaxedness what we get on the driver screen, and then finally ending up into a few. Finally, it's end up into a reduction of the fuel consumption. So that's how these are the various things which are there on a technical path.
So would you also say that in addition to these benefits, you're also helping to increase uptime because of more visibility?
Yeah, definitely. See, uptime is the first thing because I said two things. One is he gets in advance the basic information in any case is available that when the vehicle is due for service or when it is due for any other operation which is required as a part of maintenance. But so these are the regular things which he gets information about. But the main thing, important thing is that he also gets to know about that is there any kind of failure or any problem which is going to occur because of some of the data points which are being picked from the vehicle, either from the engine or from anywhere in the vehicle circuit. So that helps him to go to the nearby workshop or plan his trip accordingly so that he can reduce that downtime which he may face on the middle of a road where nowhere the service can reach within some time, and then he may have to the entire night or some time in the day during. So those even hours get saved. So all these kind of predictive maintenance and also the routine maintenance can be planned well along with this trip so that he can go to the nearby workshop, he can line with the workshops on the way, and those things can be minimized. So that helps reduce a lot on the runtime of the vehicle operation.
So I will take off from this point, which is uptime, as a consequence of productivity. Because Mr. Nadurmath, when we spoke last evening, I think you clearly told me one thing which I picked up, is that I am a fleet operator. I have a fleet of 4,000 owned trucks. I have a fleet of 4,000 trucks that are under my command. So I want to be able to be managing my fleet and doing what I do best, rather than worry about how my asset is going to break down or not. So to that extent, do you feel there has been a change in thinking among the OEMs when it comes to management to ensure greater productivity and profitability for you?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for this question. And I think some of these transporters also must be thinking how to optimize or how efficiently we transport the goods. So one of the concern will be for the operator. As an operator, he is concerned only to transport the goods. He is not to bother about the vehicle, whether vehicle is operating efficiently or not. He will not be bothered because vehicle is required to transport the good. So to do this efficiently, what we can do is we can rely on the service provider from the OEM itself. So we engage with the OEM in such a way that OEM is available to give uptime of the vehicle always. And that is how we can make the vehicle efficient, the driver efficient, and then our business also become efficient.
Efficiency, of course, but you operate in a very specialized context. You operate in waste management, and that too something like hazardous waste. So your supply chain and your requirements are very specialized. So can you give me an example, say a short example of how uptime is critical and how you've been helped by OEMs and the service chain in this regard?
With the help of OEMs, recently, I mean, from the beginning itself, we have entered into AMC contract, long-term AMC contracts. When we buy the vehicle itself, we have engaged 5 years AMC contract with the OEM. So at the same time, OEM is also responsible. He is also made responsible to see that vehicle is always up for running. So that is how we also get comfort. And now in today's contest, we are able to see this with the help of telematics, how vehicle is flying efficiently. It is always on the road. If there is any repair to be performed, there are alerts, and this alert goes to the OEM representative as well as it comes to the fleet operator also. So we are synchronized, we agree to the terms that there is a pre or scheduled maintenance which is required, and then we make that time in advance.
So let me just ask you for a specific number of cost reduction. I mean, have you again reduced cost by 10, 15% over such a large fleet because of preventive maintenance?
Exactly. This has helped us in reducing the cost of maintaining spares. What kind of spares is required, we were not sure. Because of this telematics in place and OEM coming in picture, they started understanding what kind of failures can happen in near future, and then they started keeping stock in our place itself. Like when we have AMC, they had a place to stock this space, they had a place to deploy their manpower as well.
So just to summarize, what happened in the mining segment where you had OEMs setting up workshops and having dedicated facilities is also happening to other key accounts like you. So with that, let me go to, before I come to Sriram, let me go to Mr. Ramesh Rajagopalan again. Ramesh, one thing that we discussed, which is kind of bittersweet, that as truck lives improve, okay, and we are getting into better quality trucks, reliability demands are improving, profit margins are low, both for OEMs as well as for fleet operators. But you still have to make money, and the answer lies in service, isn't it? But you, I think, told me that service is actually a good substitute for revenues.
I wouldn't say that way, but I think, let me take the customer view first. I think it's very right on the expectation on the fleet operator that I think Mr. Sethi also mentioned the previous thing. I think managing the transportation business itself will take their time. I think if someone has to pitch in, the best person probably the OEM who knows the truck, who designed the truck, would be in a better place to maintain and monitor. I think, like Mr. Chopra mentioned about it, the telematics is definitely helping, like also Mr. Nandu talked about. I think these are some of the ways the leakages are getting arrested, more productivity is coming in. I appreciate the fact that the trucks are running more now, even better than what it used to be. I think there could be expectation more, even it can run. But clearly, there are some segments we see in tractor-trailer segment in e-commerce, they run 200,000 kilometers in a year, which is far cry from what it used to be. And I'm talking about 7 years, 8 years back, we used to be around 60, 70,000 kilometers. Now we are talking of some doubling. And on average, I would say, give or take 25 to 30% running more. And when the truck runs more, it earns more for the operator, of course. And I would take away the freight charges is always going to be a tricky topic. But the efficiency or the utilization is getting much better now. I think that's something. And the reliability of the trucks also has gone up significantly.
But what about from a manufacturer's perspective? Is service...
It's service, it's not a... See, it comes with setting. For example, it's also competition, good for the consumer in the end of the day. I wouldn't like to otherwise take a political statement, but for example, cars go for service for 10,000 kilometers once. Today, trucks, 100,000 kilometers is the service interval. Engine oil changes 100,000 kilometers. So this is actually a evolving technology, we need to use it. So if you look at it, it could be seen earlier 20,000 kilometers of change, so you lose 5 times the revenue. That is one way of looking at it. Otherwise, technology has to be put in use now. So there are going to be the balance out there. More trucks are getting sold. Life is more now. The earlier used to be 4 lakhs, some of the old transporters, experienced transporters would talk about 3rd year, 4th year, you need to do the piston overhauling, top overhauling under. No. 7 lakh kilometer, 8 lakh kilometer, million kilometers are all engines running there. So it's not always about revenues by only service means. We need to, alternate fuels will come in, electrification will come in. They will throw other opportunity revenue. For example, I would see from OEM perspective, we go all the way to the extent that we sit in the customer's place and manage their vehicles. This is an opportunity, it was not existing. So that space is vacated, whereas the transporter himself was maintaining a fleet, they are paying rent, salaries, stocking of spare parts. This headache is removed from their side. It is our business. You peace of mind will give you. You operate your business, focus on your business improvement. OEM can take care of the vehicles. So this is another area which OEMs are now focusing. Telematics-driven services. We are, for example, telematics, I think Mr. Chopra talked about. There are 3 areas we look at from a specific, from an iShare point of view. We have this My iShare as an app. Many of our customers use it. There are 3 parts to this. One is the fuel management, which is very critical for the transporters, which is 50-60% of the total cost of operation. The second part is the trip management, where they can plan their trips. And third is the driver management, a lot of insights on the drivability and things like this. I think all these areas are very important when it comes to the productivity and enhancing efficiency for the transport operation. Helps us to know where the trucks are exactly. I can list on around 20-25 use cases. For example, the entire dealer network planning is done based on the actual movement of vehicle. I have 200,000 trucks running in the country where I know exactly which point in time, where are they running, the parts availability can be ensured, the service vans mobility can be kept very close to the customer. So we are talking of 93-94% of the breakdown cases we are able to reach within 3 hours. So there are areas where we can work on it and it can get monetized little later.
So can I summarize this way, that because of technology, because of greater customer awareness, fleet operator awareness and customer involvement, there is greater value both in top line and bottom line for everybody concerned in the value chain?
Yes, with a little bit of challenges, of course. I mean, I always hear this when I talk to my customers also. The freight is something which is driven by competitive nature of the business. And I think the diesel is another part of it. So what amount of efficiency improvement in the truck in terms of life, in terms of fuel efficiency, in the overall performance, that is passed on to the transporters and the end consumers otherwise.
So I won't grill you anymore, Ramesh. Next to Sriram. Sriram, you obviously operate in a very safety critical environment and something that's going to be very important. Hyderabad, somebody mentioned, is the Mecca of construction. My friend Siddharth, I think, he mentioned that. So if Hyderabad is going to see a lot of heavy vehicles in place, obviously there's going to be a greater demand for your retarders. So you already made a presentation where you said that there are X amount of savings that you manage to drive through the process. So safety is actually just a pretext for greater productivity.
Yep.
How many customers are actually buying this argument and how many do need to be convinced still?
Yep. So how do I sell this concept or idea? Or so it's all about everybody making money in the supply chain, logistics. So when you spoke about silos, so people have to integrate. Okay, so we start with the tier 1. So when I sell to Volvo Asia, they want the least of my price. So I need to be squeezing somewhere. And then generally the transporters feel that they are the receiving end. It's not totally true. Everybody in the system is squeezed. Okay, everybody in the system, including, I would say, even a bodybuilder. Those days in Namakkal, if you say, when you remove the cowl chassis, okay, when you're giving a good cabin or a AC cabin, the bodybuilders in Namakkal is washed out. So they play a different role in different areas. Mechanics, Mitra mechanics, parts availability across. When you spoke about spurious, if the OEMs make it available, some feel that some parts are available in the silo, okay, in some parts of the country, so that I make the vehicle run if I'm not available. So we are all trying to integrate the system, make it more efficient and more. When we come for a safety point of view, it's not alone safety. Safety is the most predominant thing. It's now happening because accidents are happening, brakes are not expanding, brake rules are coming, regulations are coming. By virtue of safety, you are saving many things which is not bought by the transporters. Still, many of the, I'm not accusing them, but of course they have to work on their profitability and their viability, everything. But once you fit a retarder driver, for example, environment, for example, they spoke about BS4 to BS6. What is the advantage? Again, it's a silo. So when we spoke about when I'm expanding from BS4 to BS6, there are a lot of carbon emissions, there are a lot of buybacks from the world scenario, so economy, and a lot of contributions happen indirectly. So many of the things are not known to many people. So that's still we are all in the supply chain, we are isolated. From Telma point of view, this is more brake lining saving. So 1 lakh kilometer. Now those days, the brake linings are serviced 30,000 kilometers. Now if we take Volvo Eicher or Bharat Benz or any OEM, they are saying 80,000 is. So now if they buy Telma, for example, 500,000 kilometers, they don't have to change the service. 500,000. So 80,000 simply fit Telma, and I don't have to touch my brake linings for 500,000, 450,000. If the 7 times is we are guarantee.
So Sriram, let me stop you there. So that means you talk to other component manufacturers and you talk to the OEMs also to make an integrated pitch. Does it work like that? That you can help save brake lining life?
Yeah, we are talking to all the silos currently. We are talking to the transporters individually. We are talking to Chennai Goods Transport Association. We are advocating to buy something. Waste handling is a very big application for retarders. So no waste handling equipment where there is a stop and go application, where the safety is predominant, where the brake consumptions are different in any parts of Paris or any parts of Germany, you will not see a vehicle without a retarder. So we are talking to every individual silos currently, I would say. I'm using it for any number of times. Still we are all in the silos only. The supply chain is not integrated as you wish to be. Because of these kind of an integration, next time we may have somebody from dealer, we may have somebody from a bodybuilder, we may have somebody from the mechanics, we may have somebody from the transport community, bus fleets. So this has to expand. And that's where we are integrating. You guys are doing an extremely great job in integrating this.
So I will take off from there. So I think even for something like a retarder, which is supposedly an exotic product or an expensive product, he has to do so much of networking. And that is a lesson in how to break out of silos. So let me go back to the technology expert. Mr. Chopra, let me ask you, you design the technology architecture. Okay. To what extent do you see it being shared openly in the entire road cargo ecosystem? To what extent are manufacturers open to sharing data? To what extent is the service network open to receiving data and acting on it? To what extent are fleet operators responsive to the data? Do you see gaps there right now?
Yeah, Sridhar, thanks for this question. Actually, I was just trying to see that when I get an opportunity to talk about this. See, today it is other way around. Today, OEMs are open, rather willingly going to customers and all the supplier community friends, technology partners to share the data that this is the data we are having and please use the data. Like you can see apps are now available that please use this data. Like we were just now discussing about brakes. So if you use the data, we can educate the end operator, the owners and the other people that if you use these kind of retarders, these kind of safety systems, how the vehicle health improves, how you improve the efficiencies of your vehicle, how you reduce the fuel consumption and how the entire ecosystem is getting benefited. So all this, when you see the data in front of you, that black and white kind of thing, then the believability becomes more. Because now we just heard that so many benefits are there, but why the realization is not there? Because we are not able to quantify. If I show it that over the last 1 year, there were 2 vehicles, one with a safety system, one without a safety system. If you see yourself how the vehicle with a safety system has given you much more beneficial in terms of overall economics, certainly people will be ready to accept that. So, and not only this, I have one more thought on the safety. It is much more than economics. We should see these safety systems as a part of a growing profession. Let me just clarify what I mean to say. I have been in Europe a few years before, and in my last 2-3 trips, I saw that how people really want to be a part of the transportation, because the way the vehicles have been built, the way the transport system has been built, and the way the comforts have been given to the drivers and the operators and the entire fleet management system, people really look at it as a profession. And the more people look at, the more our youngsters or the upcoming generation see it as a profession which can give them some good life, good return and comfort. Because today, one of the key thing which transportation, the moment you talk to somebody, it's very tough. Like, actually, the driver will say it's very tough. The fleet operator may say, oh, it's tough to handle the wide network. But if you use data, then the fleet operator gets a benefit that he has a control over his fleet.
Mr. Chopra,
if you give more safety, more comfort,
Mr. Chopra,
the driver also feels better.
Sorry to interrupt. My question was that obviously the benefits of data are very clearly understood. But is efficient data sharing happening among all the components of the supply chain?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that today we are going towards everybody, all stakeholders, that this is the data we are having, please utilize it. So data sharing platform is available, but the concern is about use of data, that we are giving, earlier we were giving this IMAX subscription 1 year with our vehicle. We found that people were not using it. We gave it for 2 years free, so that people start using it. But still you see, even after 2 years, lot of things don't get resubscribed and the data login is not happening. So this awareness we are trying to create through our dealer networkship, through education, through various seminars, and through seminars like you have arranged today, that we get more and more information sharing. Please use the data. And from OEM side, we are totally 100% open to share whatever data is available. And it's already there in the app, if you see. So the entire data is available. Only I think we need to work more with each other and make them understand the benefit of the data so that they start utilizing. So the benefit which I was trying to explain in various forums, not only the money efficiency, but improving the profession as a whole.
Sure.
That may bring transportation as a aspiring career for many people.
Sure.
So I'm just looking from a different perspective, how to build this data,
I think
data usage.
No, I think you've been very holistic. What you're saying, if I summarize it, is that you're saying data can uplift the value of the whole profession and also change perceptions, right? So
That's right.
now with that acknowledgement of the soft power of data, let me go to the hard power of data. Mr. Nadurmath, the elephant in the room is freight rates. I mean, all of this discussion about data sharing, about value, about margins, ultimately boils down to what is the end customer willing to pay you for your operations. So with data being more prominent, with there being greater visibility, supposedly, there is still a long way to go, but do you think that we are seeing an upward movement in freight rates steadily, or are we likely to live with low freight rates and an irregular market for some time to come?
If we have to relate basing on this data sharing, is that what you want to ask?
Yes.
If it is related to data sharing, yes, data sharing will help us how efficiently, again, we can use this fleet. Can we manage the fleet with the help of this data? And that is how we will be able to sustain in this fleet operation, using this data.
Yeah, but do you see more transparency, more visibility in freight movement because of this? Have you been able to get better terms from your end customers?
Actually, as an end customer, end customer becomes our partner itself here in our kind of a service. So here what we were able to see is idling of vehicle. If vehicle was idling, doing nothing, we were able to make use of this idling time. This has come because of this data sharing, and that is how it became more efficient. Whether idling was required or not required, it could be at the loading point or it could be at the unloading point as well. So this has helped us, and sometimes we have been losing fuel also because of idling.
Correct. I get your point. Ramesh, let me come to you. So when you talk of, greater visibility in the industry across the supply chain, so do you see the whole concept of TCO changing now? Because the life of trucks improves. You have more transparency across the value chain. Maybe the initial price of the vehicle doesn't matter so much now. and the end customer is more involved in logistics. So do you see this whole TCO calculation now transforming? You know, I'm also asking with respect to finance and stuff like that, the whole ecosystem.
It is undergoing a little bit of change. I would say the basic formula remains still the same, 55 to 60% still a fuel, and the tires would be another next thing. Maintenance is coming down overall. I think a lot of people see this, and because of the longer intervals and more reliable trucks now, component reliability also has gone up. So that way, that limits are getting pushed out there. But there's still a challenge because at the end of the day, TCO is about revenue generation also, because there is a cost, like what Mr. Nandu said, there is a cost efficiency you can bring in. Revenue efficiency is a little challenging. So the more opportunity to run more, so that's where the data would definitely play in there. For example, if they know their utilization rate, a lot of times you have trucks waiting there. Sometimes drivers say that they just park the vehicle and then say there is no load. So a lot of things are there. So by improving the overall fleet utilization, and most importantly is the uptime. I think somebody mentioned in the group also, the uptime is the key word out here. So we see it a couple of ways. One is the scheduled services has to be as long as possible. The intervals has to be as long as possible. No unplanned stoppages. And if anything happens, anything goes bad on the road, the truck stops or bus stops, whatever it takes, put me back on road. This has been a simple formula out there. So the ecosystem is we are wiring ourselves as OEMs also, as we talked about, improving network efficiency 24/7, using the telematics data to find out exactly where are the trucks running so that we can be closer to the customer. So I think its key word will be how to sweat the assets on the road, making it more available on the road, having the larger trips covered, more distance covered, and making the driver more productive. So the driver-related topics also we address, like what examples, the fuel coaching is on the go. So today we have, at least in our case there is a clear thumbs up sign or thumbs down sign, because it's very difficult to ensure the driver training. Even though we do offline training, the online coaching is also helping. Eco mode, power mode, most of the manufacturers have that kind of arrangement to maximize the efficiency of the vehicle itself.
So one other measure of efficiency would be the availability of finance and the structuring of insurance. Do you see a trend where working capital availability and insurance is calibrated with how productive is the fleet?
The linkage is yet to happen. Insurance companies, we are in touch with a lot of insurance company. I think like on the safety linkage, this will come in probably in terms of then they are also asking for such information from the vehicle in terms of usage, in terms of safety, how many vehicles have not gotten accident, things like this. It's evolving actually. In the European markets, a little bit ahead of us in this curve. But finance and F&I, what you call, typically they are still driven the basic way now.
Okay, very good. So Sriram, I just want to pick up from that same point. You obviously are a European company, and you would have seen examples of safety being linked to cost of finance, insurance. I go back to the presentation that Amit Kumar from Netradyne made earlier. Like if every driver has a safety score, his insurance premium might depend on that, like a CIBIL score. Do you see that happening with respect to greater stringent safety coming in, how the fleets are maintained with greater safety? You see that happening in the near future?
No, so I have also spoken to many of the insurance companies, but there is a programming and the over integration has not, I don't see it in next, at least for next 10 years, decade, the scoring and then even the cars, the regular drivers, the passengers have not been fined. Now with AI coming, spotting and then automatic chalaning, so it's all have to happen. But insurance premium based on certain safety equipments and certain safety features. Even regulations are now just coming. Some of the regulators for retarders in China, for example, last 30 years retarders, all school buses are fitted with retarders. 30,000 school buses fitted with retarders. So intercity buses fitted with retarders. Tipper trucks fitted with retarders. So we are just coming, our volume of retarder in India is just 3,000. So when we are talking about one of the brand critical safety equipment has still not been regulated in India. Just upcoming regulation is speaking about type 2A regulation and then certain ESPs. So it is far away from even our thoughts finding a driver based on their using pattern or insurance premium being fixed or the things, it's a far away, but I'm hopeful that everything looks to be promising now. That's the way I would put it.
Okay. So again, I see a lot of people turning towards the bar. So I will try to reduce the discussion scope to the next 5 minutes. So I'm going to take closing remarks from all the speakers and perhaps have a question or two from the audience if you still want to put 2 minutes between you and the drink. So, Mr. Chopra, first to you. When you've heard the whole discussion from a technology perspective. So when you say profitability and data, which is efficiency improvement, what do you conclude from the whole discussion from the, I don't know if you were able to listen to the workshop.
Yeah, I was clearly understanding that. See, my maybe a one-line comment will be, all the stakeholders, we need to understand each other and align, because no single individual can do, neither technology alone can do anything, nor customer alone can do. So we need to understand that it's a mutual requirement, and definitely we need to take a lead from a point of education and how far you rightly said the transparency of sharing data, and more than that I will say sharing the output and effectiveness and the results, making it more publicized and making it more useful in a much more simpler way, the way that it is today. And I will rather say bringing glamour to this industry is a responsibility which all we should bring in. That itself will bring the level of understanding, and I will say the data integration with the business, because today this business is looked at by as a prime driver operated thing at one level, that they are the people who are running the business, but it's not. There are fleet owners, there are customers, there are much more now organizations which are running. So the more it grows and the more the class of youngster which comes into with more education background, more database, the way they are using AI ML in their day-to-day lives, that has to be brought in. So it's a much bigger, maybe it may need a separate workshop, how to really make it a more glamorous and data integrated profession rather than purely a truck driving profession. Maybe I think I'm trying to make it clear. It's not a truck driving, transportation is not driving a truck.
Correct.
Now transportation should be seen as a different glamorous proposition. How truck driving is data driven driving, that's all. Because basic truck driving is gone into ages. We should not even talk about it in a way to see that how to make it profitability. Because from a truck point of view, the basics of, as we earlier said, the life of a truck, the durability, reliability, the service intervals are gone up to 10 lakh, the retarders have come, many more things are coming. So that is a hardware part, which I'm sure the OEs and the other technology partners will continuously keep upgrading with the overall view that it should be profitable, definitely.
Excellent.
But more than that, how to make this entire transportation ecosystem more data oriented, the way everything is getting data oriented in our studies, right from the school days to the universities, to even in our offices. Today, I don't focus on a particular technology. I focus on a data for a technology. So I would request you to have a separate dialogue with maybe some of us or many of more of other stakeholders, do something, and then maybe have this workshop as a different perspective. What is about this profession and how to bring this profession more data oriented. That's how I would like to, maybe I'm trying to clarify in a short time, but that's what I can do.
No, your point is well taken. And I think we understand the whole ecosystem part you're talking about. So without much delay, let me go to Mr. Nadurmath. Your closing comments, having heard the discussion.
Yeah, again, how data is going to help us. I think we have been talking about AI and ML. And I think if this data again is able to give us how much business a particular vehicle or a particular driver is able to do, so far how much it has been doing, if we are able to predict and then propose through AI, I think this is also going to help us, and this will give comfort to the most of the fleet operators as well, I believe.
Very good. So your message is more AI and ML will take the industry forward. Sriram, over to you.
Yeah, see, I fully agree with Chopra in the sense it should be glamorous. And I feel we have to make this industry more glamorous in terms of product, into product engineering per se, in terms of driver attraction. The younger generation has to come and they have to sit with pride in a vehicle. And partially, even though the data makes it more different, but driver is a fundamental driver of that whole unit. So he is the core of the system, and lesser the drivers, more unviable ecosystem, and then I would put all my eggs on the driver. And some of the drivers in Parveens and Neeta's will say that I need a retarder. So if you ask him, he will spell out each and every word and what he wants. The moment we all understand the driver needs, make him to use this and ask him what the want is, and if you address it, and this will be a more glamorous, and glamour should come only from the drivers at this moment.
Point taken.
Yep.
Mr. Rajagopalan, the last word to you.
First thing is, thank you, Sridhar. I think this is a very unique setting out here, involving all the stakeholders, so that I think the first time we have it, in the sense that we are able to reach out and have a very common understanding of what is expected out of the ecosystem. Back to the summing up, I think we heard it all. I think fundamentally I would look at transportation moving into from a typical transportation point A to point B to as a mobility as a thing. I think we already got this, lot of companies now talk about mobility is a very generic word. It sounds good, also good. And I think essentially we're talking of two main components. Besides the ecosystem itself, we're talking about man and machine here. The machine, like what Mr. Chopra, technology is constantly evolving. I think we will, as OEMs, it's going to be our prerogative. There is always somebody working on better material, better technology. That is bound to happen. On the man side of the operation, the operator side, I think that's where everyone talks about it as a univocal thing. No amount of thing is going to solve the problem immediately, but I think there should be a good beginning where we should focus on whoever is the driver, equip him, and to enable him to more and empower him more and more. And thereby, actually, it should be leading as a good profession to be living there. I think any amount of effort going in that direction would help the entire business. At the end of the day, every economy is only moving people and goods. We need people. Autonomous is not going to be solving a problem. If somebody has to make a truck and run on the road, long way to go. But eventually, until we reach there, I think we make this profession even more attractive, thereby solving much of the problem. Otherwise, we will not have. They are moving as a driver is a commodity current today. It is not seen as a profession, I think. I think that is where the work should happen now. And OEMs also would participate in that in a big way. I think I already heard a lot of suggestions on getting into more driver training institutes, create more and more aura and social respect to the entire profession by all the stakeholders. I think that would help.
So again, sorry. Yeah, Sriram.
So I would use this connotation, say the guy who is driving an aeroplane, okay, he's no different from a guy who is driving a truck. So he has to use all the gadgets, he has to prepare himself before the truck leaves the facility, and he has to be treated as a co-pilot, and he should have a co-pilot. Some of the trucks are driven today without even, but many of my transport community may not, so TCA said, if I give a AC cabin to him, he will definitely sleep there. So the treatment by the thought process itself, I just want to add that the glamour should come only from the 200,000 should be the minimum salary for a driver. I do not know how we will recover this from the system, but I would say if somebody gets 100,000 rupee, 1 lakh, so he hardly gets drive and other things. I do not know exact details. I can learn from my transport fleet colleagues, but he should get at least 100,000 in salaries.
So I think
Yeah.
I can sum up the discussion.
Sorry to chip in, Shiva, just one last point. I think a very valid point. We should start calling drivers as pilots. In many countries, it is already there.
Sure.
So the moment we say pilot, even if we don't pay the amount the pilot gets, at least the inner feeling comes that I'm a different person. I'm not a driver per se.
Yeah.
So sorry to intervene, but that's a very valid point. I think very valid closing point.
No, definitely. He's a pilot on the road, and
That's right.
that's a logic. Maybe we can have discussions privately with the fleet operators here as to how much drivers are paid. But I think, I suspect it will be an upward trend. So I think we have reached the end of the discussion. I think the summary that we have got is that data, transparency, everything is excellent. But ultimately, it boils down to the person behind the wheel. It boils down to how the profession is perceived. So thank you. So if there are any questions, I'll take it in a minute. Otherwise, we can go for the vote of thanks, and your glasses can start clinking.
Yes, my dear friends, if you have any questions, you can please raise your hands, and our helper here will hand over the mic to you. Any questions?
I think we can call it a nice session now, even if I can say it myself.
Yes, we can take a group photo opportunity now. All the panelists, along with our moderator, Mr. Sridhar. I request Mr. Avijit Talari, Head Events and Strategic Marketing, Motorindia, to please felicitate our moderator, Mr. Sridhar Chari. Yes, a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all have profited from this engaging discussion moderated by Mr. Sridhar.